We are awakening together. This is our weekly gathering we hold online. For more information, visit our website, awakening-together.org. We'd love to see you there.
Good morning, everyone. It's good to see you on this beautiful morning. This morning's weekly gathering is called Clarity on the Promise. Clarity on the Promise. And I'm sharing from this weekly gathering, as some of you may already know, because I found that what was unconscious in me up until this last month, October, what was unconscious in me was some unclarity on the promise. Not that I wasn't clear on the promise, it's just that it was mixed. It was mixed with something else. And one word that I really like is the word pure. I often talk about purity. And the reason I like the word pure is because pure means unmixed. So when you have, when you think you understand a promise, but then unconsciously you think there's another promise there, that is not pure. And so I'm really grateful to have this unconscious expectation brought to my attention, because now I can purify it. By purify it, I mean let go of what I know is wrong-minded, what I know is confusion, and go with only the clarity on the promise, become pure on what the promise is. The promise and the purpose here could be synonymous, actually. So let me share our statement of purpose. We are an assembly of equals joined in common purpose. And that's what we're going to get clarity on, right? We are an assembly of equals joined in common purpose, awakening to one true self. Within an appearance of many faiths, many cultures, and many symbols, we seek to discern one truth and to rest in its embrace. And next, I'm going to share the core value that this homily is based on. But I will say I had a little more trouble picking the core value than I usually do, because the unconscious expectation that I found wasn't explicitly stated in our core values. So I'm going to share a core value, and then I'm going to edit it a little bit. But I don't think it's moving away from our purpose at all. I would never edit it to move away from our purpose. But here's the core value I selected. We accept one true self, which is one presence or being, non-dual, without beginning or end, and absolutely changeless. That is not the part I'm going to edit. Here's the part I'm going to edit. I'll read it the way it's written first. We live this value by practicing letting go of the belief in the individual self as who we are. And what I want to add to that, because that is still true, what I want to add to that is practicing letting go of the world as our promise of security, as where our happiness lies, as paradise, or as the promise of paradise, that it can someday be that paradise. So before we get into all of that, we're going to move into our announcements.
That's quite right. Well, as we express our gratitude to Sana for her service as our sanctuary director, we're also preparing for a new chapter at Awakening Together. The role of sanctuary director has been restructured into two distinct positions, and we are thrilled to announce that Shauna Summers has accepted one of those positions. So congratulations, Shauna. And we are now accepting applications for the second position, and that position is part-time sanctuary director. If you're interested and feel aligned with our purpose and core values, please review the full job description labeled Sanctuary Director on our website. We'll ask that you send your resume and cover letter to awakeningtogetheroffice@gmail.com and include your full legal name, email, and phone number. I do want to echo everything that Regina said. We honor Sina's contributions, and at the same time, we eagerly anticipate welcoming the new sanctuary director. For more information, go to the post under news on the main menu bar, and Sina has placed a link in the chat for more information on the sanctuary director position. So, okay, Regina, I'll turn this back over to you.
All right. Thank you, Jacqueline. All right. So it'll be fun to see who answers that call to be our next sanctuary director. And Shauna, thank you for answering the call to be a part of that. All right. So now we're going to move into our opening song. I just want to say about this song before I ask Sina to play it, that since my early 20s, this has been one of my very favorite songs. And during the homily, we will find out why, and we will find out how that points directly to the error in my own mind. Sina, if you would please play Hard Candy Christmas. This is a cover by Liz Calloway. All right, so why don't we move into our prayer? I want to express gratitude for this clarity. This clarity certainly hasn't come without resistance, but it's possible that important clarity never comes without resistance. So that's not important. But I guess I just say that out loud now in case anyone else experiences resistance as I share my message today. Let them know that resistance is a sign of moving away from the norm, and the norm is where ego has us comfortable. Other than that, I just ask for guidance in how I share this. I thank you for the clarity, and I ask you to help me embrace it fully. Amen. All right, so now what I'm going to do is pass the mic over to Yolanda again. This time, she is going to be our reader, and she is going to read excerpts from both NTI and the Teachings of Inner Ramana. Yolanda, it's all yours.
Thank you so much, Regina, and thank you for asking me. The first excerpt is from NTI Galatians 4. The world is something you look upon and believe is real. When you make this mistake, you pay homage to a false god. Your false god takes many forms, but always its purpose is the same. It is the purpose you have given it. The purpose of the world, as it is seen and believed, is to tell you that you are separate. When you believe the world, this is the message you receive. Do not judge yourself for believing the world. When you judge yourself, you agree you are separate. For in order to be judged, you must be separate from something that you can be judged against. My purpose for this discussion is not to judge you or to tempt you to judge yourself, but to help you to see what you do with the power of your mind. I said that the world is a false god. Every part of it is an idol. Each idol represents the god so that even the false message of separateness is one. Let's take a moment to look at a few of the idols that teach the message of their god. Let's look at the way this message is sent, received, and learned. The world contains different people with different personalities and different points of view. Sometimes commonalities between people are strong, but always there are differences to keep them apart. The world contains different places that look different and seem different in weather, formation, and animal life. Each place has its beauty that you may commune with, but each place also offers threats to remind you it is separate. The world offers experiences that you may learn from, adapt to, and enjoy. Masses of people may share the same experiences and join through them, but always there are others with different experiences with whom you cannot seem to join. The world is effective as a teacher of separateness because it allows you to join, and still it tells you that you are separate. In this way, it is an effective false God. But can a false God create itself? Can a false God develop and deliver its own messages? Who makes the false God a God? Is it the one who worships it that made it? For the one who worships it had a desire, and through the image of the false God, that desire seems to be manifest. And then from an excerpt from NTI Revelation chapter 1. Guidance comes to you for one purpose, and that is to lead you from the world. There may also seem to be another purpose, which is happiness within the world. The two purposes are not the same. Do not be fooled by the similarities in their sound. One purpose leads to death, while the other most surely leads to life and knowledge of life. All things within the world are the same. There is nothing special in any of it. Every experience can be used to lead to life, and every experience can also lead to death. This is the double-edged sword of the spiritual path. It may lead you to the life you seek, or it may lead you to stay busy as you work very hard going nowhere. Only you can know what this path is for you. The Christ within is your guide on this muddled and tricky path. By listening only to it, shall you find your way. Listen to no other voice as you step carefully with me. Listen only for life, and be aware of temptations which are but the appealing calls of death. You are not alone. You are never alone. You need but remember your true purpose, and all that you desire for discernment and guidance shall be given you. You will never be asked to take a single step alone, but you must always be willing to take the lead by deciding the purpose and calling it out to us. And then the last excerpt is from the Teachings of Inner Ramana, The Purpose of Surrender, Part 2. Fear comes simply from not knowing reality. Therefore, the only answer to fear is to let go of what is false and remember reality as true. Discarding the world is as simple as remembering that it isn't true. This is as simple as living from within instead of from without. One who is forgetting the world takes his cues from within. When observed, he may seem to respond to without. He may even seem to respond to his thoughts, which are still without. But this is only if you observe him from without. Without will see without. Within will see within. One who is awakening to truth is also discarding the world, which includes discarding his thoughts about the world. So this one is learning to take care of all of his cues from within, from beyond the clouds of his thoughts. World-focused thought is always an error. It is an attachment, therefore it is dreaming or remaining deluded. To help people with world-focused thoughts by providing world-focused solutions is assisting one to dream. Therefore, the awakened one who has accepted the role of continuing the awakening will not assist in world-focused concerns by providing world-focused answers. The awakened one will assist world focus by observing the filter with the one who has a desire to awaken. When one is not world focused, guidance within the world occurs naturally. Non-attached activity within perception is not a hindrance to awakening. Attached activity is a means of clinging to the dream. Thank you.
Thank you, Yolanda. I appreciate it when anyone agrees to be my reader, so thank you. All right, so let's go back to the song for a moment, Hard Candy Christmas. One reason I loved that particular video is because I remember so many times driving my car and singing that song. So I just thought it was perfect that she was driving her car as she was singing that song. Some of the lines, of course, in Hard Candy Christmas is maybe I'll dye my hair, maybe I'll lose some weight, maybe I'll learn to sew, maybe I'll drive so far they'll all lose track, and what this is saying is I can find a way. I can find a way to do something in the world or a way to change the circumstances in the world so that I will be back to happiness. That's what that song is saying. I will find a way. This situation did not work out the way I wanted. I've always suspected it was probably a breakup. And of course, if you've seen the movie, what is it? The Best Little Whorehouse in Texas. It's the whorehouse is being closed down. They're all losing their jobs. But something has happened that is not what I wanted, right? But dang it, I am not going to let sorrow. I can control this. I am not going to let sorrow bring me way down. Even though this didn't go the way I wanted it to, I can find a way to be happy. And I'm going to say that has been Regina's theme for a very, very long time. In fact, I remember once when an aunt of mine told me she did not know anyone who could make lemonade out of lemons as well as I did. In other words, whenever things went wrong, I could find a way to make it right enough for me to be back in happiness again. So this was embedded into the mind. And not directly seen. And I think it's embedded in a lot of our minds and not directly seen. In fact, without meaning to, Marisol pointed it out to us a few weeks ago. We have this idea in our mind that as we awaken, as we become more clear, as we become more pure, things will finally work out. This illness that's been in the body will go away. These financial troubles that have always plagued me will work themselves out. We might say this loneliness that I've experienced will go away, but what we have embedded in that is not just that the loneliness will go away, but the situation will change. So there'll be somebody here and I won't be lonely, right? That's what we really mean. We have it embedded in our mind that somehow things are going to go okay if we're awakening. Sometimes I like to remind people of the end of the physical story of Jesus. It ended in crucifixion. Would you say things worked out okay there? Ramana Maharshi's body began to get ill in his 40s. He died of sarcoma. Would you say things worked out okay there? Nisargadatta, I can't remember if it was throat or tongue cancer, died. Did things work out okay there? I want to share something with you that Jesus said. This is coming directly from the Bible. I'm going to share my screen. This is John chapter 16. And the first paragraph. And funny, the title is Jesus Warns and Comforts His Disciples. These things I have spoken to you, that you should not be made to stumble. They will put you out of the synagogues. In other words, he's saying somebody's going to come along, specifically in this case, the Romans, and they're going to destroy your synagogues, which is important to, of course, his particular audience here, right? They were Jewish people. They will put you out of the synagogues. Yes, the time is coming that whoever kills you will think he offers God service. And these things they will do to you because they have not known the Father nor me. In other words, they're listening to the ego, and they're going to act that out. But these things I have told you, that when the time comes, you may remember I told you of them. In other words, I'm not lying to you and saying that everything's going to get rosy as you awaken. You know what's going to happen? The world is going to keep right on being the world. And the things that have happened since the beginning of time are going to continue to happen. There's going to continue to be wars. There's going to continue to be hate, sometimes directed right at you. There's going to continue to be illness, even pandemics. These things have always been there, and these things will always be there. This is what he's saying. But then I'm going to skip all the way down to the bottom of the chapter. You can go read the entire chapter on your own later. Well, one thing that's interesting in this particular paragraph is he tells them that he's going to go away. But he says the reason he's going to go away is so that they will begin to learn to depend on the Holy Spirit on within, right? They're not going to do that as long as he's still there. They're depending too much on him. But if we scroll all the way down to the very last paragraph, Jesus answered them, "Do you now believe? Indeed, the hour is coming. Yes, has now come, that you will be scattered, each to his own, and will leave me alone. And yet I am not alone, because the Father is with me." Here he's talking about the fear they're going to experience when his crucifixion happens. You know, they also expect things to turn out rosy for him because he's awakened, right? That people expected this with Ramana. They would ask Ramana, "How is it that your body is ill?" Right? Because this idea that we have in the mind also gets projected out, right, onto our masters. How did your body get ill? You're awake, right? Jesus is saying, when you see me arrested and crucified, you're going to scatter, because that's when this error in the mind is going to be triggered, right? Jesus answered them, "Do you now believe? Indeed, the hour is coming, yes, has now come, that you will be scattered, each to his own, and will leave me alone. And yet I am not alone, because the Father is with me. These things I have spoken to you, that in me you may have peace." And now listen to the last sentence. "In the world you will have tribulation, but be of good cheer. I have overcome the world." I'll read that one more time. In the world you will have tribulation, but be of good cheer. I have overcome the world. In other words, we are wrong when we expect to see things improving in the world because we are awakening. Things get better sometimes and things get worse sometimes because that's the cycle of the world. And it's going to keep right on doing it, and it has nothing to do with me or my awakening. My awakening is not signified in the world by things going right or better for me. Just like they didn't go right or better for Jesus or Ramana. Awakening is transcending the world. And in fact, let me read something that Yolanda read to you from NTI Revelation, chapter 1. Guidance comes to you for one purpose, and that is to lead you from the world. There may also seem to be another purpose, which is happiness within the world. The two purposes are not the same. In other words, every time we think that things should get better for us, even traffic, as I was discussing with a friend last weekend, that if I'm awakened, I won't get stuck in traffic, right? We're wrong. If we expect to see the world to change as we awaken, we're wrong. We are here to transcend the world. And Inner Ramana tells us how to do that as well as NTI. They both say the way you transcend the world is by listening within instead of listening to your thoughts about the world. Right? It's about the world becoming less and less, and the withinness becoming more and more. In fact, Jesus said this is why he had to leave the apostles, so that they would begin to listen within. Now, the way I noticed this error in my own mind, because it wasn't obvious, all of these things are not obvious to us until they are, right? So the way I noticed this error in my own mind, well, there were a few things that happened in the month of October, but the biggest one happened on October 7th. And that, of course, was when Hamas attacked Israel. And then since then, of course, we've seen Israel attacking Gaza. And what arose in me was this deep, deep sadness. Now listen to this, because it doesn't make sense, but whoever said the ego makes sense, right? This deep, deep sadness, as if the world had betrayed me. That's what it felt like. Just by being itself. I mean, how many times have these things happened before? And this is when I saw that somehow there was this expectation that I hadn't seen, that everything somehow was going to start working out okay, that there would be happiness in the world. Which NTI clearly says that is not the case. In fact, let me share my screen again. And let's look at, this is NTI Luke chapter 7. Yep, NTI Luke chapter 7, starting at verses 18 to 23. There are expectations in your mind regarding truth, but these expectations are based on what you know within your slumber. They are not based on knowledge or life. They are based on interpretation or death. And then the Holy Spirit asks, what do you expect of me? Where is it that you think I'm leading you to? And in the very next sentence, free yourself from these thoughts. You know, what's being pointed to here is that idea that's hidden in our mind that somehow things are going to get better for me in the world as I awaken. That is not part of the promise. That is not part of the promise. This is, hard, straight truth, but that is not part of the promise. Sometimes things in the world get better, and sometimes things in the world get worse, because that's duality. It has nothing to do with me and my awakening. It's just the cycles of the world. What do you expect of me? Where is it that you think I am leading you to? Free yourself from these thoughts and open your mind to me, unfettered by expectations. And then look at this next sentence. Blessed is the man who does not fall away on account of me. A lot of people have asked me, what does that sentence mean? Well, what that sentence means is, if we have this idea that things are going to get better in the world as I awaken, and we keep working towards that happiness in the world, and it just doesn't happen, eventually we may fall away. because our expectations are not being met. And yet what was wrong was our expectation. You see? Free yourself from these thoughts and open your mind to me, unfettered by expectations. Blessed is the man who does not fall away on account of me. Why did you begin this search? What is it that you wanted to find? Did you really expect to find the peace of God in your way, right? By the money problems disappearing, the health getting better, the lover showing up? Is that really what you thought was going on here? No, not really. It's something you knew. You expected surrender. This was the expectation given you by me. This is why this expectation crossed your mind in peace with willingness. This path that you have chosen is the greatest of all paths in the world. And Yolanda read about the double-edged sword of the spiritual path, right? That it could be the path to life, or it could keep you very, very busy going nowhere. This path that you have chosen is the greatest of all paths within the world. Yet this path is within the world. To know the kingdom of heaven, you must be willing to step off of this path with me. In other words, we have to transcend the world fully, including transcending the spiritual path. I'll stop there. There's more to read if you want to go back and read NTI Luke chapter 7 as well. Listen to this. This is something else, because some of you know that I'm making videos about the Tao Te Ching. And one of the videos that I made in the month of October came from this chapter. Listen to the beginning of this chapter. The universe is not well-meaning. It treats everything on earth like a straw dog. Oh, wait a minute. Does that sound like everything's going to work out, that the universe is going to make everything work out for you if you awaken? It didn't say that at all. And how many of us go around saying, the universe is benevolent? And what we mean by that is things are finally going to work out for me. That's not the promise. Read carefully. It's not promised in A Course in Miracles. It's not promised in the Bible. It's not promised in NTI. It's not promised in the Tao Te Ching. Buddha didn't promise it. So where the heck do we get that idea? Be honest, it's our attachment to the world. That's where we get the idea. We are attached to the world. We don't want to let go of the world. And therefore, we want the world to work out for us. And that's why NTI Galatians calls the world a false god. And it says the way that it's a false god is it gives us just enough of that we want, just enough of that joining, just enough of that feeling of communion, just enough of that, love, that we stay attached to it in spite of the fact that it's obviously never going to work out. In spite of the fact that while we're hiking through the beauty of Utah, we come across a rattlesnake that we know is dangerous to us. Right? It's like we ignore the truth of the world's duality because we want the world to be the paradise we want the world to be. So we overemphasize the parts that suit our joining, our communion, our love, our fulfillment. And we do our best to deny the truth of the world and that it can never be that holy. It wasn't made to be that holy. Holy meaning fully, W-H-O-L-L-Y. It can never wholly be communion. It can never wholly be peaceful. It can never wholly be fulfilling. We can never wholly find safety here. We can never perfectly find love here. We can never perfectly find happiness here. That is not what it was made to be. And many of you all, I think at least 3 of you all, have shared recently your homilies from NTI Romans. And NTI Romans tells us that the world was created to answer the question, what would it be like if something was different, or if everything was different than it is? And it tells us, behold the world, this is your answer. The world is not God. Right? So why do you keep looking for God in the world? The world is not truth. Why do you keep looking for truth in the world? The world is not peace. Why do you keep looking for peace in the world? The world is not happiness. The world is not love. Why do you keep looking for happiness and love in the world? And then again, it'll satisfy that to a point, just so that you remain attached. It's a false God. I have no idea what's going to happen next in the world. And I still can't help but hope for the best. I can't help it. Sorry. But let's pretend for a moment it's not. Because if you look at the history of the world, has it always been the best? So let's pretend for a moment that it is moving into one of those cycles that is not the best. It's the opposite of the best. We call it the worst. Let's pretend for a moment that Russia, China, and Iran solidify their alliance and their desire to destroy the West. And true world war begins again on 3 fronts: Europe, the Middle East, and the Far East. And let's even pretend that somebody goes ahead and does the unthinkable and starts a nuclear war. In the United States, where we're very, very diverse, people who resemble our enemies begin to really suffer. You know, the Arabs, the Asians, and of course, for some reason, the Jews, even though they're supposed to be our friend, you know, politically, they suffer too, right? They always get that. So this gets even worse. If you are Jewish or look Jewish, or if you are Arab or look somehow Arab, or, you know, you could be Mexican and somebody thinks you're an Arab, right? Because you have dark hair and dark skin. Or if you look Chinese, you know, maybe you're Korean, but they don't know the difference. You know, now you can't even walk down the street. You can't even go to the grocery store without somebody scaring you with their threats. I guess the question is, if things get really, really bad for a while, and again, I still can't hope they don't get me wrong, right? But if they do, because let me ask you this question, have they in the past? Maybe not in our lifetimes, but in the past, has the world gone very deeply dark? And has it done it many times? So is it capable of doing it again? Okay, we've had a blessed lifetime. You know, the pandemic shocked us because people didn't realize there have always been pandemics, right? So what if war comes along and does the same thing? Here's my question. Are we going to lose faith? Because we had some expectation in our mind that things would get better. Or are we going to listen to the teachings which have never promised that and have told us the way is transcending the world? And the way to do that is to listen very deeply within. Here's what NTI Revelation chapter 1 says. The Christ within is your guide on this muddled and tricky path. Listen to that, muddled and tricky path. That means opportunities for confusion are going to come. But the Christ within is your guide on this muddled and tricky path. By listening only to it, shall you find your way. By listening only to it shall you find your way. Inner Ramana says, fear comes simply from not knowing reality. Again, pointing to that same error, by thinking that your happiness is in the world, your security is somehow in the world. That's where fear comes from. Fear comes simply from not knowing reality. Therefore, the only answer to fear is to let go of what is false and to remember reality as true. And then the very next sentence says, discarding the world, which means when it says let go of what is false, it's talking about the world. Fear comes simply from not knowing reality. Therefore, the only answer to fear is to let go of what is false and to remember reality as true. It's like Jesus said, I have overcome the world. That was the comfort. Remember, the title was Jesus Warns and Comforts. The comfort was, it can be done. I did it. That means it can be done. Transcend the world, overcome the world. Don't look to the world. Fear comes simply from not knowing reality. Therefore, the only answer to fear is to let go of what is false and to remember reality is true. Discarding the world is as simple as remembering that it isn't true. Now, that's an interesting line because it doesn't mean that we lie to ourselves and somehow say that war in Israel and Palestine isn't true. Here it defines what the action is. How we live it isn't true in the next sentence. It's not just saying, oh, that isn't true out there, until something bites us on the butt, right? That's denial. It tells us in the very next sentence how to live that isn't true. Discarding the world is as simple as remembering that it isn't true. This is as simple as living from within instead of from without. That's the answer. You're living from within. That's it. It says world-focused thought is always an error. It's attachment. World-focused thought includes expecting this body to be healed. World-focused thought includes expecting my financial situations to work themselves out. World-focused thought includes expecting a lover to show up. It says that's always an error. Always. It's attachment. Therefore, it is dreaming or remaining deluded. And again, that doesn't mean a lover won't show up, because lovers do show up. But how many times has a lover shown up and that has led to perfect happiness without ever having conflict again? Yeah, everybody's laughing now. So I didn't really have specifics in my mind, like I've listed specifics, like the finances will work out, the health, the body will be healthy, the lover will show up. I didn't really have any specifics in my mind like that. The truth is I knew better than that already. But in spite of not having those kinds of things in my mind, there still had to have been some attachment that I can't even put into words. Or else that deep sadness that showed up in October couldn't have shown up. That feeling that I had been betrayed could not have appeared. It could only appear if somehow there was still this idea that somehow Regina was going to live happily ever after. And the reason it showed up for me in the Israel-Palestine conflict wasn't because it personally touches me. It's because anything that we believe in the mind, we can project out. So it can show up anywhere, right? I mean, don't get me wrong. There were little things that, quote, went wrong in Regina's life in October, but nothing big, nothing that would stick. But anything that we believe we in some way project out, therefore anything out there can point out to us that it's in our mind. And so that just happens to be the event that helped me to see it. And so since then, I've had to contemplate, what if we enter into a really dark period now as a planet? What if there's no way that I can look around and say, this is good, not in a form way. Like I can't find a form, hard candy Christmas just won't work anymore. Right? What am I going to do with that? Am I going to be disappointed in God, be disappointed in truth, fall away, lose my faith? Or see it as totally irrelevant? That's a big difference. It's totally irrelevant what happens in the world because the world is not the truth. I don't think I have anything else to say. I think I just leave us with that question. So I do have a song that I picked out, and it's kind of funny because that error is even in this song, even though the song is wonderful and everything that it says is wonderful. You're going to find that error in this song. So watch for it. So Sina, if you would play our next song for us, it's called Only Love by Jordan Smith. All right. So again, if anyone wants to donate to Awakening Together, as you know, this is like the passing of the plate time, and feel free to donate. There's a QR code on the screen, or of course you can go to the Awakening Together website and donate, or Sina puts a link in the chat. Lots of opportunities to do so. Before I turn this over to you for comment, I just want to point out what I saw in this song. It says, what happens when the sky runs out of every shooting star? That's like what happens. It's like what I said. What happens if I look around in form and I can't find hard candy anywhere, not even hard candy, right? Like there's just, everything is bad right now. The world is in a dark place. What happens when the sky runs out of every shooting star? And then it says a truth. Only love can save us now, which we could call that only the truth. Only truth realization can save us now. But then it says, keep the world from burning down. See what we think salvation is? Right there in the song. Only love can save us now. Only love can keep the world from burning down. There's the error. And then the song goes back to stating truth. See us for who we are. Only love can see us for who we are. And who we are would be enough. See, that's the truth. The true self, that's enough. But we have that error that it's supposed to show up in the world. So with that said, I'd like to turn the mic over for a couple of minutes, see if anybody has something they would like to share. All right. So Tina, go ahead.
I totally love you, but I have to ask this question because my mind is going, what is happening? Okay, so I wrote it in here. I just have a little confusion going on because I thought that, did I just lose my stuff? I thought that you couldn't attack, or like attack was not possible. And so when you were talking, I'm like, I got what you were saying. So I was like, oh my God, I'm down with that. Like I have to, but then I'm like, what are you supposed to do? Like, is attack possible? Because I'm like, a nuclear war, that sounds like attack is possible. And then I go, okay, so if it is, like, how do we rectify all that?
Yeah, Tina, that actually, you're pointing directly at the error I'm pointing to. Attack is not possible on the true self. But when we look to the world and expect to not see attack in the world, that's where we fall away. You're pointing exactly to the error. We keep expecting the truth to show up in the world. That's the error right there.
Awesome. Wow.
Okay. And I was saying, it's in all of our minds. That's why I'm pointing it out. It wasn't just in Regina's mind. If it was, I wouldn't waste your time sharing it. And it's what leads to that confusion. So the true self, the changeless nature, cannot be attacked. The true self, the changeless nature, is never ill. The true self, the changeless nature, doesn't get lonely. But to think that that stuff is not going to show up in form is an error. I mean, if you were to say to someone right now who just lost a family lost family members when Hamas attacked, that attack is not real, that's an insult. But what we do, this is our fifth core value, what we do when we see that stuff happening is we go deeper within. We focus on the changeless truth. And that's my question. If things get really, really bad and none of us can escape it, we're not just sitting back watching it on TV. None of us can escape it. Every one of our lives are touched. What are we going to do? That's my question. That's the question. Are we going to say, oops, the truth must not have been true. Look how bad everything got. Or are we going to turn within towards that changeless truth? Thank you, Tina.
Can I say one more thing? Something just hit me when you said that, Regina, about Jesus. And I don't know a lot about Jesus, but it just hit me that, like, even though Jesus, there was a time, I think he went to a garden and he was afraid because he knew what was coming, and he prayed to God to even take him from it because he was so afraid. But then the end of that, it was God's will, help me be who I am through all of this. And he was peaceful through all of that walk.
Yes, that's it. That's the example. See, that's what he's saying. I transcended the world. See, he didn't have to have the beating not happen. He didn't have to have the accusations not happen. He didn't have to have the crucifixion not happen. He was above it as it happened. He was beyond it as it happened. He was focused on the changeless truth as it happened. So this is really, I think, thank you, Tina. I think your comments have helped to clarify the confusion and clarify the promise. And that's what we want to be focused on, is the promise. And surrender, which is what Jesus did in the garden, that's the answer. That's what NTI and Inner Ramana are telling us is the answer, is full surrender. And in fact, that leads to the last song, which for me represents full surrender. So Sina, let's do that. This song you guys have all heard. It's called All of Me. And this is a cover by Karen Savage. Thank you. And I just want to say something quickly. George posted in the chat Matthew chapter 24, 6 through 13 from the New International Version of the Bible. If you get a chance, read that. It talks about all the things that are going to be dark in the world, and it ends with this. But the one who stands firm to the end will be saved, right? Stands firm within, stays with truth, and doesn't get confused looking for truth in the world. All right, I need to go. It's been great hanging out with y'all. Bye.
Been watching our online gathering. It happens weekly on Sundays at 10:15 a.m. Eastern Time. To join us live in the sanctuary, visit our website, awakening-together.org. You'll want to click on Online Sanctuary in the main menu, and then in the drop-down menu, look for How to Enter the Sanctuary. Right there at the top of the page is a clickable link. We'd love to see you in the sanctuary and join with you in fellowship. Thank you again for watching. Also, please know that if you'd like to stay connected via the Awakening Together channel here on YouTube, you can subscribe and hit the bell for more notifications. We hope to see you in the sanctuary.